Hey, Bill, what if I recommended the highest budget action blockbuster of its time? Would you want to see it?
It's might be worth a shot, I suppose.
You don't have
There's a
to lie
better
to
way
me.
to sell it to me, though. We just watched the trailer because you've seen this film and the two of us haven't. And from watching the trailer, I would say if Braveheart were about samurais, you know what I mean? It's like the samurai version of Braveheart. And that's what I get from the trailer. And if that's how you sold it to me, I'd be very intrigued.
Oh, I would.
How accurate is that?
You know, the glorious thing, if you went into this movie expecting to see Braveheart and feudal Japan,
Yes.
you would be misguided
Oh,
in your expectations.
that's too bad.
But it is because Braveheart tells too shallow a story and without any complexity
Mhm.
when compared to Kurosawa's Ran.
Okay. Is this based on a true story?
This is based on, it's a combination between William Shakespeare's King Lear and some classic Japanese storytelling ideas. So to lay it out briefly, there's an aging daimyo, an aging warlord, he's getting ready to die. And he has a dream in which he realizes that instead of turning his kingdom over to his eldest son, he should divide it into three because he does have three castles. And his expectation is that in giving each of his sons their own castle and lands to rule over, that they would remain loyal to him and govern their territories accordingly. This is not the case. It turns out that the lord who is passing the reins to his sons did a whole lot of terrible things in order to rise to power, and just about every single one of those terrible things comes back to confront him.
Okay. Confront him or his sons?
To him, definitely. His sons, though, wind up being the physical manifestations of his punishment.
Okay.
So he's got one of his sons is married to a lady, surprisingly, who was very much wronged by the daimyo. Her entire family was slaughtered in front of her, and then she was married off to the son. She's got a bone to pick, and she definitely orchestrates his downfall in very just tragic fashion. It also quickly spirals out of control when the son's guards attempt to kill the court jester for the daimyo, and he takes him out and instantly calls the son's loyalty into question, and it instantly creates friction between them. And then we get to watch a man's life work and his kingdom crumble before our eyes.
So this is maybe something along the lines of Game of Thrones.
If you needed to make a comparison, yes.
I'm just trying to get an idea.
You don't have episodes and seasons to go through. It's
Right.
in one neat little cinematic package. So yeah, you could say wrap a season of Game of Thrones into one close to 3 hour long movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, historically, this is like the same time as The Last Samurai. Is that right?
yeah, you could ballpark it right about there. It's when feudal Japan is kind of, well, this is slightly before then. So
We start to get guns at this point.
yeah, the Last Samurai, you're looking at the consolidation of power under one emperor in Japan. This is medieval Japan. So you've got feudal warlords kind of sitting in their castles atop a hill and ruling over all the eye can see. So it's not quite to one unified Japan at this point. It's feudal times.
Would you say that like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, like that concept, is that like the feeling you like? It's not telling one of those stories, but it's the same idea where it's that time of that era and like how like honor and all those things are held above.
Sure. So I suppose it's known. It's the feudal times in Japan are a lot like the Wild West to the United States, right? So
Right. Where like there's a lot more fiction than
yeah, it
Yeah.
was a whole bunch of dirt poor farmers ruled by, small armies of drunk jerks. And
right.
our Wild West was a
Yeah,
whole
and
bunch
they
of dirt
roman-
farmers.
Right, and they romanticized it.
Yeah.
Like it's I mean I mean that's samurai movies in general, and it seems from the preview that it holds up to like those tropes, and like I'm okay with like things being like there's a scene where it looks like a bunch of girls sacrifice themselves for their king.
Yes, there's an excellent montage where several characters commit seppuku. Actually, I don't remember his name right now, but the main feudal lord who this story revolves around actually at one point attempts to kill himself and his sword is broken. So instead he just lets his mind snap and wander off into the woods.
Yeah, I don't know. I like me and Bill get in arguments about stuff like this where like I feel like samurai movies and kung fu movies and all those like I think it's okay to fall into the tropes and almost as a celebration rather than a recycling of the idea.
Well, now this isn't your. So from our American point of view, a lot of the Japanese fiction we see from the time or based in that time, everyone is like super big on honor and all of this stuff. No, this is a story of a family consuming itself from within. So it's not.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there are loyal vassals to the lords, so they do have a right-hand man bodyguard who might sacrifice himself, but it's not. No, it's not everyone, just honoring each other and doing everything for the family. They're devouring themselves.
It's almost a perspective of that's how everyone's acting, but this is how it really happens. Like this is how we really feel about the situation. Like there's the guy talking about honor, and then there's people like being deceitful behind him.
Close enough, but I would say that the movie has a very self-aware presentation. Like a lot of it actually comes across like theater, similar to the way Birdman, the entire movie played out like it was on a stage. A good chunk of Ron actually plays out very self-aware that it's fiction. There's a lot of exposition, it's Kurosawa, so a lot of shouting. But it's not, you don't necessarily you do get drawn up into the story, but it is portrayed as a drama as it goes. That answered your question.
No, it did.
I'm not asking, I'm telling.
No, it did answer my question. When did this come out?
It came out in 1985. It had a
Okay.
budget of $12 million. At the time, it was the largest budget film produced in Japan.
Yeah, I do see a lot of similarities where he's talking about Braveheart. Like, there you would almost have to acknowledge that.
Well, at the very least, visually.
Right, like Braveheart had to have actually pulled from this movie almost the way it's.
This is an Akira Kurosawa film.
I understand.
One of the most.
No, I
Yeah,
understand.
very influential director.
I understand he's influential, but it's just interesting to see. Like, there's scenes from the clip that you could replace with Braveheart, like.
Yes, there are armies of men on horses charging at each other. Braveheart though didn't use obvious mannequins though. There are scenes, there are large epic battles in this movie, and there are obviously mannequins in the trees with guns.
Nice.
So Braveheart didn't quite pull that off.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with the scale they were working with, yeah, it doesn't matter that you can tell they're mannequins. The story plays itself out just fine.
Have you ever seen those behind the scenes photos where a movie might be shot inside of a baseball stadium or something, and the entire stands is inflatable crowd? You ever seen that?
I have not.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's true. It happens.
That must be a niche business. Like, we need an inflatable crowd, and then like they're like so happy, like
Yeah.
we got a customer, yay! Like,
Yeah, I think that's how it works. People get these things for rent, and I don't know that they fill the entire audience, but it definitely cuts down on the number of extras and the CG you have to pull off.
I think every baseball stadium should just do that anyways. Like if you're under capacity, just
right.
hit the inflate button.
Like airbags.
The
Yeah.
Cubs could have used that for sure.
Right.
Have you ever seen the game where Kerry Wood got like 21 strikeouts in a game.
Oh, and then the crowd's empty.
The stadium is empty.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
Anyway. So let's just, I'm going to take it for granted that the story is great, right? How do you compare this film to other works by Akira Kurosawa? Say someone has seen Seven Samurai or someone has seen Dreams.
Okay, so excuse me. It's his last great epic, which is one important thing. So it does compare heavily to Seven Samurai, not in the context of the story itself, but in overall essence as a film. Other than that, it's not, grainy black and white. It's at least shot in color. Dreams is its own animal from Kurosawa. It's that one is an episodic little jaunt that can confuse and bore a lot of people.
I did see some similarities in the performance of the actors, though.
Yes. So he is, yes. That does carry over from Seven Samurai, definitely, where they will expositional
from
dialogue.
Dreams even.
Yes.
It seems to be his style throughout his entire career, perhaps.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, visual styling and for character behavior. Like, if there is a plot point that you need to hear about it, somebody will stand up and shout it to you in the form of a conversation with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
He almost has a distinct way he makes people run. Like, if that makes sense, like when you see them charging up the stairs, like Seven Samurai, like is there only one way to run in armor? Like, it just seems like that, like the scenes from this are so Seven Samurai. Like, would you say that he didn't grow as a, I mean, if you're the best, do you really need to grow as a director, I guess? Because, I mean, is there anything that you could say he did better in this than Seven Samurai? Like you can see growth? Because, I mean, the years difference between the two is just...
Yeah, this is tough. So I watched Seven Samurai once, like 15 years ago. And I've seen Ron probably 4 times.
Oh, okay.
This is one of those movies where when I had it in my DVD collection, if someone hadn't seen it, I would say, "You haven't seen Ron? Let's have a seat." So I can't tell you just off the top of the dome whatsoever what would have improved or evolved or changed, other than that there's more money involved in it, and the plot is an entirely different animal.
Right. Oh, there is another Seven Samurai sequel coming out with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. The Seven.
Really?
What's the Western? The Marvelous Seven.
Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent.
Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I mean, anytime there's a 7 in a title, it's a Seven Samurai clone. But yeah, they just signed, Ethan Hawke and Denzel Washington signed to do that. So we'll be seeing another rendition of 7 guys grouped together to save a town.
Sounds glorious. That's
No, I mean, we got the Training Day group back.
So how did no, actually I'm really curious. I haven't heard about this movie until you just said it right now. Well, what's the setting? If we can go off topic for that.
I would have to look. I didn't see if they're going, like the Magnificent Seven was the Western equivalent of Seven Samurai. It's the same.
So it's in America.
It's in America. I think this is also going to be a Western. So they're just
it'll be like early 1800s or something like that.
Right. So it's going to be because they said Western, so I assume yes. I didn't read a lot into it. Just popped in my head. Like that's actually what I was looking at on my phone to confirm. But so Seven Samurai was real popular, and then Magnificent Seven came out, and it's the same idea where 2 guys are hired to save a town, and then they go find 5 other guys, and like there's a lot of similarities between the characters, and then they're redoing it, like that's going to be remade. So that should be interesting.
That's good to know. There's a Clint Eastwood film similar to that, High Plains Drifter, although a little bit different.
Well, I know A Fistful of Dollars was a Western adaptation of Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
Okay.
So
actually, you know what? If you liked A Fistful of Dollars, for a few dollars more is twice as good.
Oh, I have the trilogy.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
Actually, I might not have it anymore. I don't really have removable media anymore.
His actual contribution to Westerns is kind of underrated, I think. Like, if I ever bring it up, everyone's like, oh, there's similarities. Like, no, Seven Samurai told people how to make Westerns.
Yeah, it was like the Japanese Wild West.
Right. It's this,
Turns out is very, very similar legend structure to the American Wild West.
Right. I mean,
And-
it is the template that all westerns use, unless it's counter western. Like other than that, like everyone uses. I mean, even 310 to Yuma, like that
Sure.
newish one. I mean, that's got Kurosawa esque, like the character development and stuff like that. It's all the same.
So how is it you haven't seen this movie, Ron?
I honestly don't know. I know that it seems like I have blocks of time that so I watched a whole bunch of samurai movies, and then like if I miss a decade, and then I start watching them again. So I think that this was in my part where I didn't watch it. But no, I have no idea. It would have been in the Hollywood video that I was renting stuff from, I would assume, when I was renting. I don't know how I skipped it. There is scenes from it that are too familiar for me to say. I know I haven't watched it because of one particular scene. I know I've never seen that before, but I know that somehow I've seen some scenes from it, because there's another scene where I'm like, I know I've seen this.
Well, often emulated, never duplicated, right?
Right.
So there is that. I'll tell you, this movie, I saw it because it was recommended to me by my high school English teacher. So, thank you.
Yeah. What else? So, this for a few dollars more has an iconic soundtrack. Do we get anything like that here?
You know, because I don't remember anything about the soundtrack, I'm going to say no, it does not.
Not so much.
However, it has been, I think it's probably been 10 years since I've watched this movie in its entirety now. I made my wife watch it too. I make everyone watch it.
Is that like your test for anytime you meet somebody new?
No, it's like, hey, you like movies? I like movies. Have you watched this one? It's
Right.
pretty nifty. I'll tell you, there are a lot of things about it that it doesn't age the best. It is something where you do have to forgive the time frame it was made. And like I said, the movie is self-aware enough that it has an air of theater to it, so it allows you to.
I'd say that's more of a cultural clash than anything. It's just the Japanese film. I mean, from what I've seen.
I suppose you may be right. Yeah.
It is the director of Training Day, Antoine Fuqua,
Okay.
is doing Magnificent Seven.
That's
So
good to know.
It should be in good hands.
Yeah.
Although he did do, it looks like he's been doing a lot of the same, like he just recently did The Equalizer with Denzel Washington, which I haven't seen. Got pretty good reviews, but
Yeah.
hopefully he can do something different. But Denzel's just going to own it. I mean, that's a
That's his
given.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Owning.
Ethan Hawke's been on top of it lately too.
That's true. I'm starting to believe that he might be one of those underrated, just great actors.
He hasn't made a bad movie. He's on my list.
But you haven't seen all of his movies.
That's true. This challenge has come up before.
I know, and of
You're
all the
like,
movies
I've
I've
seen
seen,
3 of the
but the movies
15.
I've seen a lot of his movies, and the ones that you mentioned, you said were good, so that just adds
Yeah.
to my argument.
You have to watch the Before trilogy. It's anyway, too far off topic maybe, but if you like dialogue heavy scripts, Ethan Hawke finds his way into a lot of those.
I like him if it's snappy dialogue.
Yeah. Well, it's that Linklater dialogue. Although the parts that I have seen of Boyhood, I didn't like. I really didn't. I need to watch the rest of it.
Yes. So I do want to say that though Ron has done more in this conversation to trigger other discussions than it has allowed us to talk about it, I still highly, highly recommend the movie. You guys have to watch it. I don't know what else I want to say about it other than that it is an excellent film adaptation of a Shakespeare play set in feudal Japan.
Specifically an adaptation of a Shakespeare play. It's not just like the theme.
Well, now that I say adaptation and I get challenged on it, I can't back that up entirely, but I'm pretty sure it's
Right, because
basically
there
an
are
adaptation.
themes from Shakespeare that have been reused a lot without being direct adaptations. That's the only reason why I asked.
Yeah. I mean, the dude wrote a lot. It's hard
He
not
did
to,
write a lot.
hard not to get caught up in something he wrote about.
Well, Or
So-
he may not have written a lot. That's an argument for another day.
Oh, yes, there you go. So how about if it isn't an adaptation, it is a direct, acknowledged homage to
Right.
King Lear?
Sure.
Which-
Well, I mean, those two go hand in hand. I mean, that King Lear's a perfect samurai movie if you think about it. Like how with the like, oh, what's the word? Basically, the betrayal and then the revenge side of it. Like that's very samurai-esque.
Right.
Uh,
So it's not entirely crazy to refer to Game of Thrones then in this case.
No, it's not. I mean, Game of Thrones is a fair comparison, especially I would say to draw today's audience into it. I would say absolutely. If your high school English teacher didn't recommend it to you, if you like Game of Thrones, there's a good chance you'll really enjoy Ron. It does contain similar elements. It does have graphic violence, very graphic. Now the blood in the film is very bright red, and I think that's more for illustrative purposes than it is because that's what color they think blood is.
Right.
I think it's just meant to show the egregiousness of the violence as it happens. There are some lengthy battle scenes, which I'm not actually a huge fan of, but
How do you rate the choreography in this movie? Do you pull up a clip just because you want to show it off on your sound system or something, on your new flat screen?
no, you're not going to showcase your hardware with this movie. However, though, it does make the point very well that getting shot by an arrow will kill you, but it's going to hurt really bad, and it's not going to kill you right away.
Right.
So there is stunning imagery, but no, you're not gonna flex your sound system or your new TV with Ron.
I do feel when you start getting to large open battle scenes that you lose storytelling for a while, and you're just like showing like. Sorry that we're like moving away from it, but like Seven Samurai, every battle is part of the story. Like it links together, and like every person's life is important. But when it's like open field battle, you kind of just have to blank out, and like when a guy gets stabbed, you're like, that's the first time I've seen him.
Well,
Okay.
see, in this one, there are dozens of characters in this movie, and the battles are plot points. They definitely are, and you're gonna see characters die, and you're like, I know that guy, and then you'll hear about it in a discussion later. So you do have to pay attention to the entire movie. Fortunately, it's not when there are battles. It's not like you're looking at, interpretive dance, heavily choreographed fight scenes. You're looking at groups of people running into each other, and I think they get right what a samurai sword would do to you. It looks like it passes pretty cleanly through human flesh, and they're not afraid to illustrate that on the movie either.
How long is it, the movie?
2 hours and 40 minutes, 160-minute runtime.
It's not the most casual viewing experience.
No, you got to be ready to sit in. I would not even attempt to watch a dubbed version of this, so you have to be prepared to pay attention. It is a dialogue-heavy movie, so you'll want to sit down and be ready to read some subtitles and sit in and watch a movie.
Right.
You're not going to cook dinner while this is on the TV because you're going to love it so much.
No, I'm excited to see it. I don't know how I missed it, to be honest. I know there's just gaps, and sometimes I miss over stuff. And then it's great because then you get to see a great movie
There you go.
that you didn't know
exactly.
about. It's like a diamond in the rough.
Yeah. And there's so much to pre-apologize for with the movie too. This is, at the risk of saying it, like this is a classic movie.
Oh, I have no problem with
Yeah.
dated movies. Like I never like it. I just it doesn't even pop on my radar when the movie's like old and has dated graphics. Like I just my mind just accepts it and says, okay, I know what you were trying to show me here. I understand that's not a mannequin. That's a person being shot.
Yeah. There we go.
I'm way more accepting of older movies than, well, for example, my wife. If it's 10 years old, then she's like, this looks bad. And it's like, but the story is good.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it looks bad.
Well, and then this one here, another, and I guess we already mentioned it. It may be a cultural thing, but in addition, like there are some great performances out of the actors in this movie, but a good chunk of it, they are just shouting at each other for a whole lot of it. Like it could have been played by, Bryan Cranston could have played everybody. Just
I'm okay with that too. Like
no,
David,
that would have been. I'll say if everyone in the movie were played by Bryan Cranston, it would have been better. So
It's an interesting comment.
yeah, I don't. Although that's every single movie, I think. Yeah, even sex movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
50 Shades
Yeah.
of Bryan
50
Cranston.
Yeah.
Shades of Barry Cranston. That'd be
Yeah.
Kickstarter. We need to get that rolling.
Yeah.
I do have a bottom line though. Watch the movie. Set aside 3 hours. Make some cocoa. Cuddle up with a blanket, and watch some people fall apart.